All right, guys, Talkin Chop is officially back after a long Christmas break hiatus. The Chiefs have done a lot of things since we've last talked about them. We've seen the Texans, Steelers, and Broncos games have passed. Two of those games were amazing. One of those games didn't need to be amazing, but it amazingly pissed off Bengals fans to no end. Have you been scrolling through the Twitters, Garrett, to
I mean,
see?
it's kind of hard not to see the Bengals mauling and coping all over Twitter, seemingly blaming us for their own downfall. I mean, they could have beat the Patriots and been in anyway, but I mean, that's all they said. So, but it's our fault though.
Yes. We're scared to play them, Garrett. We're so
Yeah,
scared
we're
that,
we're scared to play the out of the playoffs Bengals.
So we are in the playoffs and we are the one seed. And this is Talkin Chop. We got lots to talk about today. It's a catch up episode, baby.
It,
Welcome back, watchers and listeners, to the show. We are the first seed in the AFC. We are 15-2, our best record of all time Chiefs history. We have a still feel like some problems, but it seems like all the kinks have started to get worked out. Our offensive line has been secured. Our wide receivers are coming back healthy. Our defensive corners, Jalen Watson's practicing, Garrett.
I
We
know.
might
I
get
mean,
him
that
back.
recovery was insane. I mean, it was like two broken bones in a leg or something, and he's already back like 10 weeks later. It's just insane.
Yeah. Hey, we've got hellos from Mexico in the chat right now. This is amazing, Garrett, right?
Hey,
We
look, we're
got we
just
got
global.
fan
What can we say? We're just global.
to talk and chop worldwide. But yeah, it's so good to be back. I mean, we missed this show like
Yeah, it's
incredibly.
really.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's been a long season already. I mean, especially with that early bye, it just felt like it's been a kind of a drag. But these like what is it like 23 days till we play? I feel like is going to be really crucial, especially for the players that have been really banged up on the season. We got a lot of guys coming back for the playoffs, so I think we're ready to roll.
yeah, and guys, this episode is going to be more casual. It's a bye week. We got some stuff we want to talk about in our traditional segments sense, but we're going to be taking a lot of questions this time. So we're going to try our best to monitor it. Unfortunately, we do not have Jackson. It's a snow day in Kansas City. So right now, Kansas City's shut down. There
Yeah, a
is
bit earlier
like,
of an episode for us. I'm usually working at this time, but seeing as the roads have been just demolished by this ice and snowstorm that's rolled through here, I have time to do it early. So
we got hellos from Germany and from Iowa. So I'm
dude, I
just
told
reading
you
the
we're going
chat right now.
global, man. We're going global. We always love
The
the Chief support from Germany too. I know we got a really big fan base over there, and obviously we love our brothers and sisters from the North Iowa. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get right into it with the injury report. Not many of our starters played. In fact, like literally none of them. Dude, we didn't even put in Tershawn Wharton or Mike Pennell
no,
in like
yeah,
QB sneak situations. We just put two DNs at D tackles and stuff, and we did not care whatsoever
I
to
mean it's
to get
it's just
anyone
a
injured.
smart move. I mean there were so many people that especially like the Saquon situation, like he obviously could have broken the rushing record. They decided to keep him out. A lot of like fans were really mad that he wasn't going to be able to go in and get the record. But like if you're an Eagles fan, you're in the same situation. If he gets injured trying to go for a record, you basically lose a majority of your offense. I mean the snap count he's had that season is massive. So if we were just to go out there and be like, hey, Mike Pennell, Deshaun Wharton, even I mean, obviously we saw a couple snaps from Noah Gray here and there too, but like if any of those guys got injured in a meaningless game, we can't have him for the playoffs. So I
We
totally
we
agree.
we pulled Noah Gray after he got like slammed
Yeah,
twice on some like Carson Wentz checkdowns that Noah Gray was getting killed out there. And I was like, we're killing all of our players out there. The Broncos were coming for blood. And honestly, in order for the Broncos to win the Super Bowl, they have to go through us. So, it makes sense for them to be just like high flying and trying to kill people.
yeah.
But, CJ and what's his face? Sean Payton has a history of bounty gate. So you never know. I'm not accusing anyone of anything,
Do we
but
subscribe to the purposeful loss theory to keep the Bengals out of the playoffs? No, it just happened to be a win-win situation. We were going to keep our starters out regardless. I think Andy Reid. I mean, we're going to talk about this a little bit more later, but I think he was holding out a lot of stuff for later on in the playoffs.
which is interesting because I feel like there was some reports that said Reed was going to let Wentz like air it out and show what he's got. He's I think I'd rather have Jimmy Garoppolo right now than Carson Wentz as our backup. There's a
Yeah.
lot of
I mean,
backups out
I
there
was
I'd
joking
rather
in the
have.
chat too. I was like, "Hey guys, over under on completed pass attempts from Carson Wentz," and I said like 10 or something, and he had like 10 completions.
Oh God, and a good line,
So not
honestly.
great, not great.
But all that rambling aside, Chamari Connor is the one player who got hurt in this game. He had a shoulder injury. He's been banged up a little bit this season, got a concussion like a couple weeks back, maybe 3-4 weeks now. But he's been a good defensive back. I mean, he started the season off really hot as like a
Yeah.
rotational, like slot corner safety hybrid kind of guy. Asked to be played, asked to be put in some situations he wasn't as familiar with, some like outside corner due to injuries. Fans started to turn on him a little bit, as happens, but it's an injury that hurts nonetheless. And
Yeah.
I think he'll probably be fine after 23 days of rest, though. So I think it's more of a precaution, but
Yeah.
still worth mentioning, right?
And I feel like Chamari Connor, yeah, on that note, he got a lot of hate, especially after Jalen Watson got injured. Right? He was kind of asked to step into that kind of number 2 role alongside Trent McDuffie, which that's just not what Chamari Connor is supposed to play. Once Jalen Watson's back in and we get Chamari Connor back, I think we're going to be back to being a little bit more secure on the pass game. But it'll be good to see him back, especially if it's a precautionary, like we said.
Yeah. Oh, and I just see too, like someone's talking about Roland Wallace. He has high hopes for him. I completely agree. I mean, yeah, Roland Wallace stepped up when he needed to in some positions. There was that game against the Browns where we literally like were playing 5 different safeties. It felt like at some points
Yeah,
with
the
Roland
rotation in that
Wallace.
game was really interesting.
But it was just because we knew they were going to pass so much, and we kind of ended Jameis Winston's career. I feel bad because I love Winston, but like, dude,
Yeah,
they never.
he's a really
they
funny
never
guy.
play
He's a
him
really great
again.
personality. I'm sure he'll be great whenever he's out of the league, especially in like broadcasting. But
Oh, I want him to be a broadcaster. That'd be super.
he'll be really funny. But no, he was terrible that game, and we got a lot of picks.
So besides that, there's like no. This is our player news and injury report situation. So we're gonna go over to player news now. This is a former Chiefs legend. Tyreek Hill was not happy that the Dolphins suck this year, and it was kind of his fault too. He did not have. He had his worst season since 2018, where he missed like 4 or 5 games that year anyway. So he didn't have 1,000 yards this year, Garrett, and he literally says, "I'm out, bro. It was great played, but I gotta go." Like, that is crazy.
I mean, and I think that's funny too, because it's like, you dug your own grave. You severed your ties. You burned your bridges with Kansas City. You said, "I'm worth more money than you are willing to give me. I know you've given me everything. I know you've given me all these second chances. I decide to leave, go chase the bag." You dug your grave too deep, and now you can't jump out of it, right? I know he's mad. I don't want him back. I think
Dang.
what's done is done.
That, you know what, Garrett? I was super in the camp of, if he wants to come back, I'll be here with open arms. But honestly, your points are very valid, especially with the situation at Oklahoma State. Like, he fell to the 5th round because of off the field issues. We took a chance on him. We basically made him the player he is. We gave him an opportunity to shine. And I mean, yeah, he went to chase a bag, as some do, but then, oh no, the winning didn't come with that, and you missed that, and you want to come back.
So like, the money may be greener, but sometimes the grass isn't, right? So you're looking at the situation. Tyreek wants to come back. If there's any chance of that at all, the Dolphins are going to have to eat a major amount of that enormous contract they signed with him. And I just don't think they're willing to do that, right? I doubt they even let it. Like, he may obviously threaten to sit or whatever that situation is going to be in the future. But I just don't see a lot of movement available for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just definitely like another wishful situation. There were rumors of him getting traded back to us, like even before the trade deadline this season, before we got Hopkins. They're like, oh, what if we get Hill back? I mean, it's unrealistic, but it is exciting to think about. Unfortunately, though, I think unfortunately for Hill, I think we've replaced his production with a similar bodied receiver, similar abilitied receiver, with Xavier Worthy already having a very similar first year that Tyreek Hill did. And obviously Worthy has had, his ups and downs. He's had some drop issues. These numbers could be much bigger than they actually are, if only Mahomes hits him on some wide open passes that Worthy was streaking down the field, or if Worthy gets his feet in bounds on, like, I feel like 10 different plays that he could have got his feet in bounds on. So, there's definitely a lot of these numbers are promising, at least you could say, right?
Yeah, and I mean we've seen a similar amount of progression and learning the playbook with Worthy as we did with Rice last season, right? He had a really slow start to the season. I mean he was barely getting any touches, wasn't getting a lot of targets, but consistently as the games have progressed. Obviously, he didn't play yesterday, but especially in the Texans and Steelers game, his targets and his numbers were going up consistently. So in the playoffs, I could see him explode.
Yeah. And I just saw someone say in our comments that our new punt returner, someone said in the comments, our new punt returner, Nico Remigio, is already better than Miko Hardman.
Dog.
All right. I'm not here for Miko Hardman slander because, hey, his first season was really good for Hardman, but then after that, it was slowly going down and down and down. But however, Nico Remigio is a dog.
He's a dog.
He is probably the best punt returner on this team by far. Unless we actually let Worthy back there, but we don't want to.
He's got a lot of confidence back there too. I mean, he's catching a lot of these punts or even kicks just with dudes right in his face, and he is not a guy that's going to just fair catch it easily. He's going to catch it, try and make something happen, which I appreciate. Especially, I don't think he's had a drop yet.
Not a dropped punt, but didn't he have a fumble? I thought potentially.
I don't remember if that was him or if that was one of our other special teamers, or maybe the other special teamer picked it up. I think he might have had a fumble.
But it might have been recovered. So either way.
No lost fumble, but still a fumble regardless.
But yeah, that's what Jackson's for. We don't have Jackson here to tell us if Nico Remigio actually fumbled. But someone says, how is that Hardman slander? They're just pointing out he has more yards than the other one. Oh, that's funny because somebody on YouTube also said the same thing that someone on Instagram said. So you both have a take about the same thing, that Remigio is pretty good. So, hey, guys, no Hardman slander. He still has the Super Bowl catching touchdown, which means we can't slander Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney because they also have touchdowns in the Super Bowl. But that does remind me, Garrett, you saw the Chiefsaholic documentary. I saw the Chiefsaholic documentary. Do we want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, we can talk about that real quick. That was kind of funny situation that happened.
Well, and also too, did you see him reacting to Kadarius Toney in that documentary? He's so hyped. Bro, he loved Kadarius Toney. It's hilarious. I bet he doesn't even know that he got cut now.
I was kind of surprised that he was actually on the documentary. At first, when they showed him, I thought it was an actor playing him, but that was actually the dude.
Yeah, no, it's actually crazy. And two, it's like they were recording the documentary as the crime happened, because I think what they were going to do is oh, this story is interesting enough. He just got out of jail. Let's interview him. Let's follow him around. And then he literally just escapes and goes on the run while they're trying to film the documentary. Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, now it's true crime. We're just going to follow this guy. And we're just going to...
They're this documentary just got a lot more interesting. So
it really did. It became man, and it became even more interesting too when I got featured in the Chiefsaholic documentary. I didn't know I was going to be in it. There's a lot of YouTubers and Chiefs Twitter fans that were getting interviewed for this. That was super awesome. I was glad to see. I'm definitely a smaller creator when it comes to that, but my graphics made it on the thing. This is a screenshot from the Chiefsaholic documentary, and my face is in the bottom right corner next to James DeRose. Because I made a thank you, Chiefs Kingdom, for an amazing season. I put all my favorite fans. There's Rob Riggle and Paul Rudd and all of those guys in there. Yeah. David Coaker, fan of the show, David Coaker, because he follows us. But I put freaking Chiefsaholic next to Taylor Swift and James DeRose.
Hey, they're just putting you on the same pedestal, right? It's just levels to these things. You are on the same pedestal as Taylor Swift right now.
Yeah, I mean. If you're making this documentary and you see a picture of Taylor Swift and Chiefsaholic, you're perfect transition. Now we can mention Taylor Swift in the documentary, which they did. They did end up mentioning Taylor Swift in the documentary. But hey, cool. I thought it was awesome. That's the second movie I'm in now, really right? Well, let's move on.
Yeah, really funny part. Obviously, we talked about Tyreek Hill, a couple other player news. Really funny situation. Zeke to the Chargers.
Yeah,
does that help him? No. Zeke is washed, and he is terrible. I have no idea why, but I guess they thought it would help. So,
shout out to the Cowboys for cutting Zeke, giving him a chance to go ring chase. Chargers are banged up at running back. Gus Edwards is injured right now. J.K. Dobbins returning from injury. It makes sense. And Harbaugh runs the ball, so maybe when Zeke has a 44 or when Zeke has a defensive tackle blocking for him, maybe he'll actually be able to run the ball forward. in that Charger system. But hey, good for Zeke. This does open up the possibility, Garrett, though. Well, I've been so big on this, dude. Like some people think that it's almost I'm too excited about this possibility. I love Calais Campbell. He's one of my favorite players. He is like 38 years old right now. He is one of the most like humble, underrated players. I think he's won a Walter Payton Man of the Year. Really, really great guy. He's played in the Super Bowl, but he's never won one. I want him to get a ring so bad. It reminds me of the Terrell Suggs situation where the Cardinals cut Terrell Suggs. The Chiefs said, we'll pick you up, and then they won a Super Bowl with Terrell Suggs on the roster. Terrell Suggs already had a Super Bowl. Yes, he was important. What is the one position group that is really thin for us right now? Defensive tackle. Because we sat everybody at defensive tackle in our Broncos game and put DNs at D tackle because we did not want to risk a single one of our 4 defensive tackles getting hurt.
Right, because one goes down, I mean, then we're just really struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Chris Jones, Tershawn Wharton, Mike Pennell, and that's really just our guys. And then we have Derek Nottie as well too. But like if one of those guys goes down, like it's not good. It's just simply not good.
If he becomes available, like a guy like Calais Campbell can only help out, right? Especially being a veteran presence, he can even give some coaching points here and there. So I would.
But also, he's having a great season. He has over 4 sacks. Like he's a pass batter too. You know, he's been a pass batter.
Pure Veach player, loves pass batters. So.
Yes, he's like what 6'7" or something. He is tall. Like he's a big guy. So
he's a big guy.
Oh,
do we want to go into the segment that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be wondering about?
Is it the
backup offensive line?
Well, I do want to answer a question real quick. Someone's talking about Harrison Butker.
Yeah, it's kind of worrying. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened to him, man. He's just missing a lot of kicks that normally he would. Now, I've always said Harrison Butker is a different kicker when it's from 50 plus than anything under 50. I would trust him with my life on the line, anything 50 plus, but anything under that, it can get iffy.
Which is interesting. Now, here's what I got to say. Those chip shot field goals and those like give me's, he's got to make those, especially in the playoffs. And like, there is finally some pressure on Butker within, his role as the starting kicker. We saw rookie kicker Spencer Schrader out of Notre Dame come in, has a huge boot. He has a huge boot, and he could potentially win the job. You don't know. We did the IR stash thing. We put him on IR. I don't think he's really that hurt, but we're just keeping him there so we can protect him and his rights on the team. So you don't know. He could compete for that position next year. You saw us do that with Tommy Townsend and Matt Ariza. Harrison Butker, one of the highest paid kickers in the league. We're penny pinchers. We got to save money anywhere we can. Harrison Butker is making the contract of a backup defensive tackle, for example, of a good edge rusher, of a solid corner. Like, those are potentially like, do you have him or do you take a chance on a rookie kicker next year who will be in his second year? It's definitely a conversation. I'm not going to say we get rid of Butker, but it's a conversation. Butker's gotten injured a bunch now, and his new kicking style where he where
he drops down onto his foot and stuff, it's obviously just not as consistent as what he was doing before.
Yeah, and it's like he could get hurt again this year. We've already seen Justin Reed do some kickoffs while Butker was recovering from injury. So obviously, still a lot of season left. If Butker proves that he is, again, the clutch god that we all know him to be, then no worries there. But I'm starting to get a little, like, it's a concern, right, Garrett? Like,
I mean, it's always a concern when your starting kicker is struggling to make really easy kicks. So we'll see how that progresses.
But let's go into the segment that we all want to talk about. When the Chiefs played the Broncos, we put our backup offensive line, who honestly a lot of them have started at some point this season for us. We put those guys out to the fire and we said, let's see what we got. Well, Garrett, what we got is a problem at the backup.
Yeah, it's a really big problem. So a couple interesting things to point out. For some reason, Jawan Taylor was inactive. I thought they would at least give him more snaps considering the way he's played, but regardless, I think they just wanted to be safe. Caliendo didn't play either. He's been the guard that has replaced Joe Thuney that he moved up to left tackle. I think they pretty much just solidifies him being the starter and Joe Thuney being the starter for the playoffs moving forward at left tackle. I just want to get this right out the gate. DJ Humphries was terrible. He is not a solution at really any tackle spot that we need right now. He just had one of the worst grades I've ever seen in pass blocking. It was like a 10.6, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really awful grade. I mean, he was just letting up pressures left and right. 2 sacks allowed, had a penalty. He is just not the solution.
And that was going against, like, you know, a normal defensive line. Like, you know, this is what a playoff defensive line is going to be like. So, you know, he got live reps. I mean, sure, he might not have got helped by other, you know, players on the line. Like normally he would have Joe Thuney next to him in a theoretical sense if he's starting, but it just was not pretty. I mean, it was at a 10
I mean,
point.
even with that though, it's like yeah, sure, the Broncos are a great defense. They're probably one of the better ones in the playoffs right now. But that doesn't help you when the rest of the defenses we're going to see are probably on the same or a little bit under their level, right? I know Zach Allen's great. I know Nick Bonito and him are having a really great tandem season, but if we have to put him in a game and Mahomes is getting killed like Carson Wentz was, we are just not going to be able to get the ball rolling.
So I'm going to rule it as the DJ Humphries experiment has officially failed. And, you know, he's going to be great depth for the playoffs. Should an injury happen, it's not going to be great depth for the playoffs. He's going to be depth for the playoffs, honestly, should an injury happen.
He will be an emergency depth.
It seems like Joe Thuney is going to get the start at left tackle moving forward. But, hey, let's be positive before we get negative again. Wanya Morris at right tackle. Why have we not been putting him at right tackle to begin with?
I had thought initially that might actually be a decent move, moving him from left to right tackle. A lot of things I noticed when he played right tackle, especially this has easily been his best game all season, was that the use of his outside hand, it just felt more natural to him. It was just keeping that outside leverage contained was just simpler for him at that spot. Just from the snaps I saw him play, he had a way better game. Obviously, had the sack. Had that one penalty, but I mean, it was really late. It was a really early jump. It happens from time to time. We talk about that loophole all the time. We don't need to discuss it again, but
it looked like he was doing the Jawan Taylor.
Yeah. Honestly, I think if Jawan Taylor has a really bad stretch of, you know, drives in the playoffs, I think we put Wanye in there.
And I'm not opposed to that either. Now, I don't know why we ever tried him at left tackle. The only time in college that he was like a starting left tackle was his freshman season at Tennessee, and then his sophomore season at Tennessee, he started at left tackle as well, and then had to move to right tackle when he transferred to OU. And that's where he had his best season at OU, was when he transferred to right tackle. At Tennessee, he was not a good left tackle. He was an okay left tackle his sophomore year. His freshman year, he graded out as a 37. So, I mean, it seems like he's more naturally a right tackle. So I mean,
you can make a lot of progress, obviously, from a freshman year, but I mean, he's definitely more comfortable in the right tackle position. He was making a lot less mistakes than he normally did, especially when we moved him to left. I talked about a couple weeks ago that Joe Thuney moving to left tackle, especially for a longer period of time, would probably be the most efficient move. I'm glad they've stuck with that decision. Seems that they're going to be going with that forward in the playoffs. It has improved our pass game a lot, considering the moment we moved Joe Thuney to left tackle, he got his left tackle jitters out, had that one pretty bad game, but after that has been solid as stone rest of the way going forward. Kind of has switched what we're doing, though. We had a really great run game when Joe Thuney was anchoring that interior along with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. But the moment we moved him to left tackle, run game is now no longer existent. So it's kind of like a, would you rather have this? Would you rather have that? I think we've played our best kind of football, especially offensive-wise, the past couple games with Joe Thuney at left tackle. So I think we stick with it going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been working. It's been great for the entire offensive line. I mean, you've seen the pass numbers increase, but I'm glad they did it. I can't believe, I mean, credit to you, Garrett. I didn't think they were going to do it. I didn't think they were going to put our guard at left tackle. I mean, there's been many years where we've talked about wanting to do it, and they never did it, and they finally did it. And I mean,
it's been a great decision. I mean, if there was any guard to do it, it was going to be Joe Thuney. I mean, he's been fantastic in the league as long as I can remember. And he's just been phenomenal for us on the outside ever since that one fluke game where we just suddenly put him in at left tackle, right?
Yeah.
And it just so happened to be against, you know, guys like Bosa and Myles Garrett. Those were his first 2 games at left tackle. So got to give him a little bit of a break, right?
Yeah. And
Another bright side, before we kind of switch off that and go into a little bit more hateful stuff. But Hunter Norzad, our backup center, had a really phenomenal game. Was our highest graded player in our backup offensive line. But I coming out of college, I was a little bit harsh on him. I didn't see too much on tape that I liked. Yes, the competition he played wasn't great either, but he's really developed. Obviously, our offensive line coach for Kansas City has gotten him set up straight, and he had a really great game.
yeah, I mean, well, the only one on our line to not allow a single pressure or a sack or a hit or anything. The best pass blocking grade by far. It's actually 81.2. So I made the graphic when the first wave of PFF grades came out, and then they corrected all of them. So, but his stayed almost exactly the same. So I was like, I'm not going to change it from an 81.3 to an 81.2. But Hunter Norzard, good to have a good backup center, especially with Caliendo, who is like positioned to be the backup center now as a starting guard. Caliendo kind of can play anywhere on the offensive line. So having someone who can be a true backup center like Norzard, that's really good to see. And
interesting part with Norzad too, through college, he also played a bunch of different positions, so he could also move up to guard if needed. So seeing as how a couple of our guards didn't grade out too well, especially our backups, might be an option.
Well, because we had Kingsley at back, we had him at left guard, and we had who was playing
Kingsley
right
also did not play great. Did not play
no.
great. I mean, that was to be expected, though. I mean, Kingsley has not had a great season. Obviously, he got benched pretty early on. But obviously, the practice he's had has not made up a ton of leeway in that department.
So, Garrett, we're going to talk about the 7th rounder that you really liked out of the draft. And listen, it's one game. You can't say the take is bad or anything. But we will say this. The 7th round guard, CJ Hansen, out of Holy Cross, that Garrett was a big fan of, had a 73.4 pass or run blocking grade. Really good run blocking grade. However, his pass blocking grade might be the worst pass blocking grade I've ever seen in my life.
I've ever seen. We'll just talk about it for a second. So CJ Hansen came out of Holy Cross. I looked at his tape, saw a lot of things that I liked. Made the 53-man roster initially. Was really happy. But has been a designated inactive pretty much the most rest of the season. Got a start yesterday. Had a 1.6 pass block grade out of 100, which I saw that on, and I watched the game, and I'm like, well, yeah, he didn't play great, but he didn't play like horribly. I saw that grade, and I'm like, okay, 1.6 out of 100. He might as well have just been not even on the field. We might as well have played with 4 offensive linemen at that point. I'm not sure what you have to do to get a 1.6 pass block grade. He let up, I think it was a sack. He had
a sack and 4. He had a sack. Yeah, he had a sack and 4 pressures. Like, not crazy.
Yeah. Which, but I mean, yeah, like, it was still the same. That's pretty similar numbers to Kingsley did, and Kingsley had like a 40 grade. Like, what's the difference between a 40 and a 1.6? I guess so.
Well, yeah, there must have been something else. I mean, Garrett, you're gonna have to look at the all 22 tape to see this, because
I know I'm gonna have to relook at it, because I'm like, well, I didn't think he played like that bad. I guess it was really awful.
Well, Kingsley didn't allow a sack, but he still had a 30 pass block grade. So, I mean, all of our players had really good run blocking grades for our backup offensive line, but it's just we didn't run the ball. So I feel like it's not a big enough sample size to really see if they ran block well.
Then also, I mean, by the time the game really got going, I mean, Denver was really just allowed to pin their ears back and go straight for quarterback every single time. They had no worries about us passing downfield or making any kind of leeway in the run game. They were just sending everything at us, a lot of pressure. Zach Allen and Nick Benito were just having a night, so I don't blame them necessarily for having a bad game, but I'm not going to make too many excuses for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the offensive line. We got a lot of questions answered. I mean, it goes in hand with, was Carson Wentz sitting in the pocket too long too and just taking unnecessary sacks? Maybe. Carson Wentz didn't even look like he knew the playbook. I mean, we're going to talk about that right now. Like, Carson Wentz looked lost out there. He looked like genuinely it was coming down at last like 5 seconds of play clock every single time, and then the play would get called, someone would be in motion, out of position, nothing was going right. Wentz looked lost out there. But Gary, you're saying too, you think that we're mucking our cards, we're not like showing our hands.
So to your point, right, like it came a lot, the play clock went down to almost 0 almost every single time. That's going to happen when you throw every single backup we have in there. Those are guys that are not consistently getting a lot of these reps, running these plays live. I'm surprised, honestly, we didn't even get more than one false start. That surprised me a lot. But yeah, I think this kind of fits Andy Reid's motif. I don't think we showed the Denver Broncos anything we're going to actually run in the playoffs. It's a very high possibility. Obviously, I think the Broncos are going to lose to the Bills. But if they don't,
beat them,
we're playing them immediately in the divisional, right? So why would we show them any of our cards, right? So to the point of people being like, oh, I think we threw the game. I think we did. I think we literally threw these guys out there, gave them the most basic offensive playbook ever, especially on defense. We were not showing them I guarantee you, a single defensive call we called against the Broncos on Sunday, we will not use in the playoffs against them if we play them.
Wow. I mean,
we hid all of their cards. I guarantee it.
There is a track record. Andy Reid and company love to hide the playbook. That you all of a sudden, like, the narrative has always been, man, the Chiefs offense doesn't look as good anymore. And then all of a sudden the playoffs hit and the playbook just opens up. You see the creative screens, you see the creative motion plays that happen with Andy Reid's playbook, and you see players getting wide open, seam beaters, everything. It just explodes onto the scene in the playoffs. But that's because we're hiding it throughout the regular season. Right. It feels like it's just like, can we just keep winning until we get to the playoffs, and then we'll show our cards. And if you think about
it, right, it's like, why would we give them more film on us that matters before we play them possibly in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Because now we have a full game against Denver in our starters. We're going to have a full game against Denver and the Bills if they beat the Bills. I don't think they will. But if that's the case, we'll have 2 full games of this year's film on them, and they'll pretty much only have one because they're going to look back at that 38-0 game, and they're gonna smile about it. Oh, they beat the Chiefs, but is any of that film really gonna be usable? No.
Garrett, I like in the notes I just read that you said it looks like we just put our fans on the field and said go play.
Kinda. I mean, everyone was out of position. Just calls were not being made correctly, especially on the back half of the defense. Bo Nix looked like prime Peyton Manning out there, just slinging it. Just anything would work for him. Right?
Yeah.
That's why I think we were just hiding a lot of our cards.
I mean, you're right about it. People were out of position. We had tackles at guard. We had centers at guard. We had tight end. We had a left tackle play tight end. You want Ethan Driscoll, man? Yeah. He got to run some routes.
Driscoll, tackle that we picked up. I forgot what college he went to. Marshall. He ran routes. So that just shows you how seriously we were taking this Broncos game. We put a backup right tackle at tight end and had him run a route.
Because I think to be honest, we didn't want to get Noah Gray hurt, and the only other tight end was Peyton Hendershot. Kelsey wasn't playing. I think we were just going to be like, we just need to put people out there. And we were putting D ends at D tackle. We didn't want to get any of our D tackles hurt because our depth there is really bad. So it wasn't just our starters weren't playing, our backups weren't playing. We were playing our PDFA.
Honestly, it was probably a pretty big possibility that we didn't even make it out there. We got really lucky. The Chiefs were stuck on the KCI airport with this big snow and ice storm blowing in as they were trying to leave, and they just found one small clearing and they made it to Denver in time. But I mean, there could have been a really big possibility we didn't even make it to the game.
Yeah, you would not want to hear the backlash on Twitter if our plane didn't leave the airport.
Would have just been like, conspiracy.
Yeah,
they didn't leave the airport. They didn't want us making the playoffs.
See, at least we could admit, hey, Bengals fans, it was a better decision for us just to not win this game. I mean, we didn't want to get anyone hurt.
Like, I just think that whole, argument is ridiculous, right? It's like, we are 15-1. We've secured the 1 seed. We're resting our starters. Why would we not do that? They're like, oh, well, you guys let your divisional rivals into the playoffs. Okay. That doesn't matter to us in the slightest because we get the bye week. We rest all of our starters. We're going to have all these guys coming back from injury. Guys were sore. Guys were beat up. We had just played 10 games in 3 days, right? Now we have 23 days of rest before we possibly play either the Broncos, Texans, Steelers, any of these other teams that aren't the Bills, right? Because we'll be meeting them in the championship game if they end up beating Denver come Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, it just didn't make sense. It's so funny. I love just win your games. Seriously, just win your games. Like the Dolphins,
they're mad. They're mad at us for not beating the Broncos for them. You guys lost to the Patriots. Why are you
Yeah.
mad at us? You guys lost. It was like 13-9 or something. It was some stupidly low score.
Where was that amazing offense then? Like, you got to come out. I feel like the Bengals always start every season really bad. Like the last 3 years, they've had some really rough starts, and they
beat two teams this year with an over 500 record. That's it.
Who were they?
Two. I don't remember the exact teams, but it was two teams with an over 500 record. That's it. But we're scared. We're scared of the Bengals that just missed the playoffs. We're scared of them. I think it's ridiculous.
I mean, it is what it is. Didn't they miss the playoffs last year too?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
I mean, they've had some rough starts. They've
dug
themselves out of these holes
last year, like way more. Yeah. So that's understandable. But this year, hey, you could have won more games. I understand your defense sucks, but you need a good defense to win games, right? So maybe don't spend all your money on offensive players and maybe get some defensive players.
It is funny. They have the sacks leader, they have the receiving leader, and they have the passing leader, but they don't have a playoff spot. It's just lovely,
Yeah, Bengals lost 16-10 to the Pats.
Ugh.
10 points against the Patriots. Kind of diabolically low. What can I say?
Moving on to our next segment of today. We got to talk a little bit about the positives. When we got to see our starters going all out there, we're only going to highlight this a little bit because we don't want to take too long. But the Steelers and Texans games looked great. I think Hollywood Brown is possibly the most underrated addition this late in the season. He is such a consistent catcher. He's eating up mid to outside coverages, which is great because I think he's the greatest 10-yard out or a 15-yard curl kind of player. And it is just,
and he's a great route runner too. I mean, he complements the other receivers that we have on the team really well. He allows Worthy to get more open. He allows Kelsey to get more open. He allows Hopkins to get more open. And when they're not open, he can make a catch, right? So I'm really excited to see what Hollywood. I mean, obviously, he came back a lot earlier than expected. He's going to be even more rested now for the playoffs, so he can go full steam ahead against whoever we're playing week in the divisional.
Garrett, I'm glad you mentioned Hopkins because that reminded me of something I saw today. We were right. Brett Veach kept Hopkins under 60% of snaps, and we got to keep our 4th-round pick. It's a 5th-round pick now. Now, I don't get it because the person who tweeted that was one of the NFL transactions guys who knows what they're talking about. So does that mean that the clause where if we make the Super Bowl and he plays, does that it's this or that? It was he hit 60 or that?
I think it was both.
Oh, both things had to happen. And since one of them didn't happen, it doesn't matter. The pick is a 5th. Great. Okay. You know what? I mean, we were struggling when we made the take initially, but it worked out. Veach kept him under 60% and we kept winning games. So, hey.
I still think it's a little ridiculous, but it is what it is, right?
Hey, the 5th-round pick and our Snead pick, Garrett. The Titans got the first pick in the NFL draft. All of a sudden, I think it became pick 66 when all the tiebreakers were said and done. Pick 66 in the NFL draft for L'Jarius Snead, who is not played.
Who's not played and has been honestly pretty bad when he did. So
we get rid of players at the right time. Speaking of another player that we got rid of, not at the right time, but just because he got too expensive, Charvarius Ward, one of our former corners, has now said that he doesn't want to be in San Francisco due to some very sad circumstances with his family in California, and lost his 1-year-old daughter. That's just absolutely tragic. But he says he can't be in the state of California next year. What if he comes back to Kansas City? I think it would be nice. I mean,
he was great for us when he played. He really locked down, especially when we had guys like Snead and McDuffie anchoring the best players on the field. He was that great third, right? I think we bring him in if he's available. Just depends how the cards fall, I guess.
Well, he was here before we got McDuffie.
Yeah.
McDuffie was his replacement, but yeah. He was phenomenal. We'll see how the cards fall. It's rare that I feel like we bring a player back unless they suck. I guess not suck, but Kareem Hunt, coming back, Jody Ford, unless they're a depth player, you really see a starter coming back.
How we traded for or signed whatever Steven Nelson and just never used him.
That makes
just another weird addition, right?
We've had a lot of those where Veach and the Spagnuolo don't seem to be on the same page with who they want to bring in. You brought in Josh Uche, who I thought was, yeah, exactly. You brought in Cam Thomas.
He's just doing cardio.
Yeah, he did not look good in the preseason game. You brought in Cam Thomas, who we cut. You brought in like Steven Nelson, who I apparently, and then Spagnuolo goes on to say, "Oh, I think I like what I'm seeing out of Williams and Nazi," and says, we're good and don't really need Steven Nelson. So, hey, Steven Nelson, if you get a free ring, shout out. So I mean, hey,
You can
practice
join
squad.
the ranks of like guys like Melvin Gordon who just kind of like hung on the coattails and just got a free ring, right? So
Yeah. Well, someone said, "Do you think Nelson's going to play?" I
no,
don't,
I
unless an
don't think he
injury
will.
happens. Like I
Unless we
wanted
have
him
like
to.
a disaster and like 3 of our corners go down. But even then, he probably won't even be activated for the game, right? Like even if corners go down, I don't think he'll get in.
Yeah. But hey, he's on the team. He's practicing. Hey, as long as you have a deep practice squad, like those practice reps get better. I mean, Deion Bush is a quality player, and he's on our practice squad, and he's gotten an interception in a playoff game. So yeah, you have some guys on the practice squad who they matter in practice. That's the point of the practice squad. But yeah. All right. Are we going to go on to our predictions for
Yeah, I
the
think so. I
playoffs,
mean,
or do
it's
you
just
want to
kind of
talk
like a
more of the
recap.
Steelers
Like
and Texans?
obviously, it's the best we've looked offensively all season. I think we still had a couple defensive struggles against the Texans here and there, but still a lot of turnovers for us. Really great. Had 2 picks against C.J. Stroud. Can't ask for much more
Worthy,
than that. Worthy
Worthy's
played
looked a
really
lot
well.
better. He's been developing great. I mean,
Held the
are
Steelers
your
to 10, so really great performance there as well. Just made Russ just look uncomfortable. Still can't stop a QB run to save our lives, but hopefully we can figure that out eventually if we ever happen to need to play the Ravens or something, or, Josh Allen.
Oh, and I remember now too. Justin Watson finally got hit on a
Hmm.
deep pass. There was so many close calls this season. I think he went like 3 games without a catch, maybe
Yep.
4. But he finally got his catch with Mahomes in the Steelers game. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, of
But
course. I think really funny story about the Steelers game. So I had placed a crazy bet, right? I had Justin Watson 2 touchdowns and 60 plus yards. That was my parlay. First drive of the game has 2 catches for 60 something yards and a touchdown. Does not see the field again the whole rest of the game.
why didn't you just do 1 touchdown, Garrett?
Because
What?
man, it was looking so good after that first drive, and then they every time he went in, they just ran the ball. So
Well,
I was a little mad about that.
talk about your recent bet that you made that did
Yeah, it
well.
seems the bets I make when our starters aren't in just seem to hit regardless. Because in the preseason I won a pretty big one, and the game against the Broncos I had Bo Nix 2+ touchdowns, I think over 250 yards, and Devon Vele and what's his name, Marvin Mims to have touchdowns. So and all of that hit. Love to see it. My Devon Vele pick hit on that ridiculous tip drill touchdown in the end zone for the Broncos. So yeah, they lost. I won some money. Can't be too mad about it. It was a ridiculous touchdown that I got that Bailey pick from. So
Classic. Love to hear it. I mean, you got to have some reason to watch that one, honestly. I
yeah, I
sat
mean
through
that
that.
was the only like I was gonna watch the offensive line regardless, but I had to make it a little interesting, so I threw a few bets down.
All right. Well, speaking of that, let's go to our AFC playoff predictions and then our NFC playoff predictions. Kind of more than just like who we think's going to win, but who do we want to play? Obviously, we have the 1 seed. Let's go Bills versus Broncos, Garrett. Who do you want to play versus who do you think is going to win?
I mean, obviously, I think the Bills are going to win. I don't think this is a hot take at all. I mean, I don't think it's going to be an easy game. The Broncos, as of late, have played really well. They have a really great defense. Bo Nix has shown flashes that he can be a great quarterback. I think the Bills are going to win probably by 7 or more. But I would love to play the Broncos, right? We've played them before. We have their number. We have I mean, we don't have the streak anymore, but Mahomes is it's like 15-2 against them or whatever. 15-1,
Hey,
whatever the number is.
we had to block a kick to beat them though,
Hey,
remember?
that was when we were playing bad though. We have Mahomes has really dialed it in since then. We've had very minimal mistakes on offense, so I would love to play the Broncos again. Obviously, I think the Bills are going to win.
Ever since we got a Joe Tooney out at left
Yep.
tackle, we've been looking a lot better. Um, I mean, yeah, Bills are probably going to win this game, but I don't think it's going to be that easy. I think the Broncos are going to be a very formidable opponent. I think they're definitely a team that deserves to be in the playoffs, and I think they're a team that deserves to be in the playoffs over some other teams who didn't make the playoffs. The Dolphins did not deserve to be in the playoffs. The Colts did not deserve to be in the playoffs, and honestly, I think the Broncos deserved it over the Bengals. So, cry me a river, Bengals fans. Honestly, I mean,
So I mean,
Bronco,
we're pretty much same mindset. It's like, yeah, we want to play the Broncos, but Bills are probably going to take it. Be a hard game though.
Ravens, Steelers.
This one is really interesting.
Me too. I am in the same boat here.
I know
think
the
this,
Ravens are a better team. I know they are. But Lamar Jackson historically against Pittsburgh is really bad. It's really bad. I think the Steelers win. I think Russell Wilson pulls off a win.
I'm on the same boat here. I think the Steelers win this game. I think, yeah, they've been on a 4-game losing streak. They are trending down, and the Ravens are trending up. But, you know, Lamar in the playoffs hasn't been amazing. He's gotten way better last year in the playoffs, you know, but they might have that overconfidence. The Steelers might have hid some cards when they played them last, and Steelers defense is still a top defense. They were doing their job. The Steelers offense wasn't. I think that gets changed. Pickens figures it out. You know, this is a game that means more. Give me Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think the Ravens fans especially know this was the worst possible playoff matchup for a wild card they could have gotten. I think they would be fine playing any other team, even the Bills at this point, than Texans, Chargers. Steelers are probably their worst matchup. So I'm taking Steelers. And I would rather play the Steelers as well. So it's got to be a win-win, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Texans, Chargers.
I think this is probably the first place we differ. I actually think the Texans win. I think a lot of people are going to disagree. I just think CJ Stroud is going to turn it up. He's going to lock in. I think he's ready to, show Houston that they can win a playoff game. I know it's been a huge amount of downturn ever since that 24-0 up on us in that playoff game, and then we just flipped a switch, beat them by 20. I think they get their first playoff win in a long time, and I think CJ Stroud turns it on.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, this could go one of two ways. Either it's the most defensive game of all of the slate, or all of a sudden this game is like a 35 plus on either side kind of game, because you have two electric quarterbacks in CJ Stroud and Justin Herbert, but both the Texans and Chargers have some of the best defenses in the league right now. So I'm going with the Chargers just based on what I've seen out of them recently. I think their team is hot. I think they've figured it out. They got a lot of chemistry. And I think the Texans, they just got so many injuries. I just don't know if they can surmount them. Although, even Dameon Pierce looked really good in that final game of the season against the Titans, but the Titans make everyone look good. So, you never know. But
they got the first round pick for a reason, right?
Yeah, so. Dude. Oh my gosh. I didn't think they were going to be that bad preseason.
I mean, honestly, I thought the Panthers were going to not even win a game, but hey, they really beat my expectations. So.
And Bryce Young is good. You have to admit now, with that 5 touchdown performance against the Falcons, Bryce Young is potentially a good quarterback next year. I might get him in fantasy, low key sleeper. But moving on
off to the NFC. Obviously, the Lions got the first round bye, deservedly
Eagles,
so. Really great season for them. So,
Eagles, Packers.
This one's really tough, I think.
I agree.
I think I have to go Eagles. I'm a big Saquon guy. I think he's had a really phenomenal year. I think their offense fits really well against what the Packers want to stop. So I think it's a really, really close game. I don't see it getting further than 3 points away. I still take Eagles. I think Saquon has a great game, but it really could go either way.
My heart says Packers. My mind says Eagles. I'm going to go with the Eagles here. I do think the Packers are trending down, but in a bad way. They just got Christian Watson injured, who hasn't really been that important to their team. I feel like he's been so overrated in terms of his value to their team. They have so many good receivers. They really don't need him. And he's kind of a bust anyway. He's like a deep threat, but I made a Christian Watson take a long time ago, and I'm standing by it, that he is just a very mid player, but he's MVS 2. That was my take. He's Marquez Valdes-Scantling 2.0. Very fast.
Maybe he'll come to the Chiefs eventually in 8 years or something.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I mean, both Packers players that became Chiefs, so you never know. But yeah, I like what the Packers are doing. That loss against the Bears was concerning. I know they started trying once they realized that they could get a better position in the playoffs when they saw what was happening in the Commanders-Cowboys game. But it's still no excuse. You can't
I
lose
thought
to
the
the
Bears
Bears.
bared it when they fumbled that ball going down the field with like 50 something seconds left or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
And I was like, "Oh, they bared it again." Packers kicked that field goal, went up. Then the Bears had life, and then they drove down, got into field goal range, and won the game with Chiefs legend Cairo Santos winning the game for the Bears.
yeah.
So really, really,
I
really happy for him.
historically the 2 seeds do beat the 7s, and I think that will continue in this game. Although I think it's going to be a lot closer. And the Packers in the playoffs, though, for the last couple of years have been like upset merchants too. They've been like making crazy runs, but not today. Buccaneers, Commanders. This one's a hard one, Garrett. I think the NFC is like all these teams are really, really on the same level outside of the Lions and, Eagles. 'Cause I honestly think the Vikings are down in the same tier of the other 3 through 7 seeds now. But Buccaneers, Commanders. What do you think?
I think we disagree here too as well. I think the Bucks have been really hot. I think Baker's kind of coming into his stride. I love a good, heartfelt story. Baker Mayfield got screwed by the Browns. Baker Mayfield drug the Browns out of just this mediocrity pit and brought them into the limelight. Just decided, you know what? We don't need you, Baker. Just ship him off. Just let him go. Let him ride into the sunset. Had a decent start in his first season with the Bucks, but I think he's really coming to stride. Obviously, he's really coming into tandem with Mike Evans and the boys. So I think the Bucks take it.
I think I've changed my initial opinion too. I think this will be a shootout. I think Washington is going to tear apart that defense because the Buccaneers are so injured in their secondary. Their defensive line is healthy though, and they could compete on the defensive line. But I think, like you said, Garrett, Baker Mayfield arguably is the 3rd best quarterback in the league this year. I mean, he has had way more touchdowns than he's been given credit for, and like he has been lighting it up. I think that honestly, that throw to Mike Evans to get him over 1,000 yards, that reaction got me excited. I was like, they have that locker room energy that they might do it. The Commanders barely beat the Cowboys, and like, yeah, they were starting Mariota. It didn't matter, but like, I don't know. The Buccaneers have some sort of aura and some sort of like, Baker Mayfield is just going to find a way to win. It was an ugly game against the Saints, but they found a way to come up on top. So
I mean, divisional rivals are always going to be ugly games. So I'm still taking the Bucks, man. I like what they got going on over there.
yeah, I'll take the Bucks as well. I do like the Commanders, but I don't think I know they're going to have many years of this future too. But this Bucks team will probably have to tear apart due to free agency stuff and contracts. But Rams, Vikings, this one I think is a no-brainer for me. I don't think it's even a close game, and I think it's going to be an embarrassing defeat for the Vikings. I am not
Really? You think the Vikings are losing?
I do. I think the Rams are that team that just awakens in the playoffs. They've looked ugly to get to the playoffs every year, but if everybody's healthy, Puka Nacua is an amazing player. Cooper Kupp's an amazing player. Kyron Williams is an amazing player. Matthew Stafford, if he has to be a game manager, can. And then that defense, it just works. They have 2 of the best rookie defensive linemen on that Rams team. I think it's a very slept on team. And I think the Vikings, the Lions discovered how to beat the Vikings. It's to phantom pressure Sam Darnold. They weren't blitzing him. They were just containing him. And so Sam Darnold felt the pocket collapsing, but it actually wasn't. It was only a 4-man blitz. So they still had all the secondary back there that they needed help with. And then Darnold kept making bad decisions. Sean McVay's a great coach. He's going to know that. I will say Kevin O'Connell is also a great coach. They're both disciples of each other. So they're going to be trying to outsmart the other one, knowing what each other knows. I just think the Rams are going to take it. I'm very confident about this one.
I feel like I'm in a similar boat, but on the opposite end. I think it's going to be a really, really, really close game. Like, I'm talking like this might go to OT, right?
Yeah.
I'm still taking the Vikings. I think Sam Darnold gets his first playoff win. I think that offense can really come into stride when it wants to. I think the defense can make stops when it needs to. It hasn't been great at making a lot of stops when it needs to, but it can. I've just got a feeling about the Vikings. I know every single year it's kind of a meme that I make a bet that it's going to be Chiefs Vikings Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I think I still have the Vikings beating the Rams.
If they beat the Lions, do you think that they would have happened? I think that game meant so much.
Well, the issue with that is, so that game meant a lot. Obviously, it meant 1 seed in the NFC. It also meant the loser, being the Vikings, now has to fly all the way to LA, have a playoff game. Then they have to fly all the way back, fly somewhere else for another playoff game. They lost all their home field advantage just in one game, right? Like Vikings have one of the best records in the NFC, and they are the 5 seed. So that loss meant a lot.
Yeah. Well, Garrett, that just wraps up our hour right now. We have one question that came through at the end that we'll answer right now from Brage.o. And he's just like, who should be safety 2 behind Justin Reed? Do you like Brian
Hicks.
Cook? Yeah,
easily Hicks. 100% Hicks.
Yeah, Jaden Hicks. Brian Cook was playing in this game, and so was Hicks, obviously. But Brian Cook came flying on a tackle in the backfield and just whiffed aggressively. And I was like,
it's easily Hicks. It's like not even it's a no-brainer for me. Hicks has been playing phenomenally for us. I think Spags has finally realized how to utilize him, so I'm really excited to see what he can do in the playoffs.
Well, and I think too, Hicks has learned all of the checks and things he's got to do as a safety. Like he's got to know, like he's controlling the secondary, so he's doing a great job. What is it? Is he tied for first? Well, I know has the most interceptions on our team, but he might be up there for rookie interceptions as well. So
yeah.
But yeah, let's see. Did anyone more questions come in at the end here?
I don't think so. I saw a lot of I saw bear down from our boy Jackson. So
yeah. And then Nelson gonna play, and then hey,
that was it.
Dude, good episode. I'm tired.
Hey, not a lot to talk about. Obviously, we don't have a game coming up. We have a bye week. Really excited to see how these matchups turn out. I'm not going to root for any AFC teams because that'd be lame, but we'll see how that goes down. So I would love to see the Bills again, though. I would love to see the Bills again.
Yes, absolutely. We need to get revenge on the Bills. So as always, we're just talking chop. Give us a review on our Spotify. It does help us out a lot. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's a Discord. It's the best way to reach us. And yeah.
Who is your favorite player, David? Last question before we leave.
Oh, who's my favorite player on the team or of all time? Of all time, it's Jamal Charles. On the team currently, it's Xavier Worthy, just because I went to Texas. So both players did go to Texas too. But I mean, Worthy definitely is my favorite player right now. So Garrett,
my favorite player on the team right now is Creed Humphrey, and my probably favorite player of all time is probably Larry Allen.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Hey, that's a good take. Larry Allen, legendary Cowboys player. There's another question on the YouTube that we're not going to answer. It's very political, so we're going to end the stream now. So thank you guys for watching, and have a great rest of your.
Yeah, we're always talking chop, baby. We're always talking chop.